Hello and welcome to Issues with Issues. And today is going to be a little bit of a rant, um, as we've got some news that pertains, at least in part, to DC Comics. That is the Netflix backing down from the Warner Brothers deal, and it seems to be that as of now, Warner Brothers is going to be sold to Paramount. Um, isn't great news, to be honest with you. Um, and I do apologize if you see me looking over. I've got a couple of notes that I want to make sure I cover up on my second monitor. But first off, I just really wish we didn't have David Zaslav in charge of the company running DC Comics. Um, Kind of all he's done is kind of gutted the company as a whole. We've seen completed movies, be completely canceled and shelved and put away and to never be seen again. Uh, Bunch of cuts and layoffs, and um, luckily it seems that the comics have sort of stayed away from his attention. Um, but it still sucks seeing a lot of the other, uh, you know, what used to be a very big creative powerhouse, Warner Brothers and DC and a lot of the other studios under that umbrella, um, kind of dwindle in recent years. So really, it just sucks, man. Like when I was a kid and I saw the Warner Brothers logo come up on the movie, I was probably gonna like it. But now, like, there's so many of those movies that, like, would those have been made nowadays? You know, like how many formative movies from my childhood just wouldn't be made because, or a version of them for this new generation wouldn't be made because you have a fucking asshole in charge of Warner Brothers Discovery. But like, I have a whole thing about how companies, they don't invest in like a social capital anymore. It's all a monetary capital. They don't care about how people see them or the goodwill built up between the audience. They stopped caring about that a while ago. I could rant on a whole nother video about that sort of thing, but this is that, taken to the extreme. But I guess we'll move into exactly the actual issue at hand. I can't imagine Paramount's going to handle Warner Brothers, um, DC Comics very well at all. The best case scenario, kind of seeing that Netflix would just kind of leave everything be. They'd kind of do their stuff with the movies and all that, and then a lot of that kind of tertiary stuff, like comics publishing, would be kind of left to its own devices, and that may cause some issues without support from a higher up or anything. But it seems to me they mostly meant to leave it be, and I could live with that. I wasn't jazzed about Netflix owning Warner Brothers and further kind of uh, not diluting, the opposite of diluting, concentrating power in uh, these companies just constantly merging and stuff. And when competition is good in these spaces, need more competition. But these huge major powerhouses keeping on merging, not only are they staying, they just kind of building up uh, and entrenching themselves in these positions. Okay? They're they're not incentivized to do anything um, good, because a lot of what has recently been happening, and it's, it's kind of what I think, what I fear is going to happen with a lot of these Warner Brothers properties or Warner Brothers companies under the umbrella. Uh, that a lot of these companies they're gutting things. They're not making products to make a profit. They're cutting expenses to make a profit. At the end of the day, you only have so many expenses you can cut before you start, firing people, uh, laying off entire divisions, entire departments. We see this a lot in the gaming space right now. Blue Point Games just recently shut down after reports were saying for the past like 2 years they've been pitching products or projects, and this has kind of just been happening all over, and it's been a large reason of the strikes we've seen with voice actors, the Actors Guild of America, Screen Actors Guild, SAG, the Writers Guild. Um, a lot of what that is it's protections against uh, being able to just be completely tossed to the side, even if there is that added threat of things like AI. Um, the main threat is these very talented, creative people who have put a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of effort into these projects that have made these companies, you know, astronomical amounts of money being thrown to the wayside for no good reason. That's mainly what I fear will happen. There's been a lot of talk about uh, David Ellison and his uh, connections with the Trump administration, and if the more like anti-authoritarian books, the books that touch on like corrupt leaders and empowering the masses, definitely absolute, or just a lot with the absolute books, even into like the Marvel's Ultimate books. There's been a lot of talk if those kind of things would be published under a Paramount because of their connections to, and I I think it's possible. I don't put anything past somebody who wants to be close to someone like Donald Trump. Obviously speaks very little to his character, and um it really has seemed like to Trump and the people around him there has been kind of no battle too small. Um Even if it doesn't matter, they'll fight it because it's a fight, and it kind of keeps things in the conversation and such. So it's possible that they'd go after books like that. Um, but I said my main fear is that they'll just kind of indiscriminately cut massive amounts, or maybe even entirely DC Comics. It genuinely kind of scares me that such an institution through my childhood, such a big part of my childhood and growing up, even into my life now, could die. DC Comics could end during my lifetime. And like I grew up on these books. I watched the Justice League cartoon with my dad. He would send me comics when he was deployed, and that's like kind of how I got into this space. And it's been such a big part of my life. And seeing a juggernaut in that space ending because of the problems with our uh, corporate systems here in America, and uh, this batshit political landscape that we have now, it, to be honest, fucking sucks. Um, and I don't know. There's a lot of. I want to be clear. I think is a better way to say this. Is there is a lot of more pressing issues with our political climate here in America and what this administration has been doing than comic books. But this is a comic book channel. That's why I'm talking about this. Um, I don't think the way I've mentioned this administration in this video, someone could leave this thinking I was in any way supportive of what they've done. I'm just gonna be clear. So fuck Trump, fuck ICE, fuck everyone who latched on to his coattails, try and ride this uh, fascist populist movement I don't know if populist is the right word. There's just the first word that came to mind when saying that. Um, but it's a lot of goodwill and um, I don't know. It's just a lot's been burned by our government, and uh, this is just one more aspect of it. Um, and also, I do think that like art and comic books can, kind of speak truth to power, and they can be used as a good force, and at the very least, be used as some escapism. Uh, so like it does suck that this is happening, but I do understand if you are like watching this video and going like, well, that's fix some other shit first. Um, and it's just a shitty fucking situation. I If you had asked me when I was like 10 years old that if less good, taking 10-year-old me and you're going, yes or no, true or false, 20 years, country's gonna be run by a madman that everybody, it's all the powerful people have latched onto for some inexplicable reason. He is a fascist pedophile, went to Epstein's Island and all this stuff, and it is maybe directly causing the end of a American entertainment juggernaut. I'd probably ask who Epstein was. I was 10, but I'd think you were fucking insane. Like this, everything seems to move so fast nowadays. Uh, it's I don't know. It's hard to put into words. Past just it fucking sucks. That even doesn't even like carry that as much weight as I want it to carry. But like, these are people's entire lives. There are people who have made careers out of working for companies like DC. Uh, People who have made careers just around the comic space. You can even look here on YouTube. There are so many channels talking about comic books, history of comic books, finding things, uh, finding things that are in comic books. Using comic books as this creative driving force, this fuel to push them to do these things, and they've created a life out of it. And it one of like almost half of the market is half of the American market is in jeopardy right now. And like I know this isn't like kind of maybe the point, but like it's kind of the better part, right? Like I wouldn't want this to happen to Marvel either. But DC's been kind of killing it recently, and it you know, and this is gonna take years probably for it to get all situated. And they say it's gonna be know because it still has to go through all the right channels and stuff to be approved as a merger, and probably very little chance that it's not approved. Say it's gonna be like a fair assessment. Can't trust that all too much, especially since Donald Trump has explicitly said he's going to get involved, something a president should not be able to do in the other aspects of our government. But that seems to be par for the course nowadays. Yeah, I think I've covered everything in my notes. A little bit out of order, but I don't want this to be a half an hour rant video just sitting here. Cause I'll go crazy. But I guess just to TLDR a little bit. I don't know why Warner Brothers needs to sell. I know why they're selling. I don't understand. It's, I understand why it's happening. I don't think that it needs to happen. Um, I am not uh, happy it's being sold to Paramount. I wouldn't be happy if it was sold to Netflix, but I think that would be a much better option. And while I think that there is a genuine possibility that they do interfere editorially with books being published by DC, I think a much bigger issue would be mass layoffs or cutting the comics publication entirely out of Warner Brothers. And I thing is, I don't think that's an unlikely outcome if Paramount were to acquire Warner Brothers. I think they're really worried about TV and movies. I think they don't care about anything else. Axe it because it's not some big money maker, and they, like I said earlier, companies nowadays do not care about investing in things that aren't monetary. They don't. Paramount probably doesn't care that, oh hey, even if comics aren't the biggest moneymaker in the world, there are new stories, there are new artists that are going to be happening that can be adapted into movies or TV shows or stuff later. It's an investment. I don't think they understand that. They're just going to axe it. I don't think they understand that the comics and even things like toys, you know, all these excess, not excess, but all these other different forms of these properties that you can interact with are a social capital that, if a kid doesn't see a Batman toy in Walmart, they'll stop caring about Batman, right? Like, they don't, kids don't care about Batman because he's got big movies. They care about Batman because he's like an omnipresent figure. They can go see the movies, they can watch TV shows, they can buy the toys, they can dress up as Batman for Halloween, and it's that stuff like toys and Halloween costumes and comic books and wall posters and all that sort of stuff. That is the investment for getting those kids and their parents into seats to see movies. I do not trust Paramount. I barely trusted Warner Brothers before this, but I especially do not trust Paramount to understand that and to keep that going. So I think a lot of people are going to lose entertainment they love. A lot of people are going to lose jobs. Um, I think quality is going to go majorly down, if it's not just cut entirely. And I think it is very possible we see the end of a very prominent comics institution die within within 10 years of this deal going through. I think that's very possible, and it sucks that it is. If you guys have any thoughts, I guess put them down in the comments. Sorry if this video doesn't terribly interest you. This is kind of a I was just reading articles and I needed to talk about it with somebody, and uh, I made a video. Not gonna ask you to do any of the normal YouTube stuff. Just care about comics, and there are people behind these comics, these creatives, these writers, these pencilers and colorists and editors and typesetters and cover artists and all these people who have made they're living off of comic books. And, I just ask you to support them as you can. Even if it's just sharing stuff on social media, buying the books, buying trades. I think we need to support this medium while it lasts. I guess I'll leave it there. That little call to action, I guess. Um, yeah, that's it. Bye. Good evening, good night, wherever you are. I guess we'll see what happens.